Welcome back to 6-Minute Math, where we turn confusion into clarity 6 minutes at a time. Thank you for joining us today for our video on factoring complex trinomials using the grouping method. Make sure you subscribe to 6-Minute Math for more tips, tricks, hints, hacks, and ways to make your math journey easier. Factoring complex trinomials tends to be a complicated process, which is not going to be a lot of time in 6 minutes, but we're going to do our best. So let's get going. Our key points are going to be, we are going to create a factor u of the a times c value. Then we're going to find two numbers that add or subtract to that b value. And then we're going to create our binomial factors using the variable and each of the values that we are going to find by our grouping method. Grouping is best described using an example. So let's check out what that looks like. We're going to factor 2x squared plus 9x plus 10. So the first thing we're going to do is have our a, b, and c value, and we're going to create a factor u of our a times c. 2 times 10 is 20, so we have our factor u for 20. We're going to find those two numbers that add or subtract to that b value. In this case, it's going to be 4 and 5 because my b value is 9. I'm going to split my b value into those two terms. We have a 4x and a 5x to give me the following polynomial. This is where the grouping comes in. I'm going to group my first two terms together. So I group 2x squared plus 4x, and I factor out my greatest common factor, which is 2x. I'm going to group my second two terms together, 5x plus 2, and factor out my greatest common factor, which in this case is 5. Now you can see I have a common binomial in the middle. So my last step here is to factor out that common binomial. I'm going to take my x plus 2, factor it to the front, and then I have my remaining 2x plus 5 as my other binomial. Let's check out some examples together. So we're going to factor 6x squared plus 11x plus 3. We have our a times c value is 18, and we have our factor u for 18. And I do a quick scan to see which two of those numbers add to 11. That would be 2 and 9. So now we get into our factoring process. Our a value stays the same, and we're going to split 11x into 2x plus 9x. And we're going to drop that c value as well. Now I group. So I'm going to group here in green and here in pink. We're going to factor out our greatest common factor in green. That is going to be a 2x. And I have a 3x plus 1 remaining. I'm now going to factor out with my 9x plus 3. I get to factor out a 3. I have a 3x plus 1 remaining. And then I can have this common binomial. So I know one of my factors is 3x plus 1. And my last binomial is going to be my remaining 2x plus 3. Let's check out another example here. We have 8y squared minus 2y minus 3. We multiply our a and c values together to get 24, and we have our factor u. Now, because I am subtracting my c value, that tells me I'm looking for which to subtract to this b value. That would be my 4 and 6. So I'm going to split this b value into two terms with 4 and 6. So we drop our a, 8y squared. In this case, I'm going to have minus 6y plus 4y. If I were to combine those, that's where I would get my 2y from. And I'm dropping my minus 3. I have my first two terms, which I can factor out a 2y. What am I left with? 4y minus 3. And then I have my pink terms. What can I factor out of that? I actually can't factor anything, so I'm going to factor out a 1. And what am I left with is 4y minus 3. This is great. I have a common binomial, so I know 1 is 4y minus 3. And I'm left with the remaining 2y plus 1. Those are all the examples we have today for factoring complex trinomials using the grouping method. There are going to be more examples in our grouping extended version, which is linked in the description below. So I encourage everyone to check out that video for more explanation and clarification on this process. Make sure you follow us on Instagram and TikTok at 6Minute Math. And be sure to like, share, subscribe, and leave a comment below for any topic you want to see me tackle in a future 6-minute episode. Always remember that the best way to get math is to practice math, so keep on practicing. And until next time, keep solving and evolving.